everybody, Meriden Gaming here, and we're back in Elite Dangerous. And if you hadn't noticed, I'm in a different ship. That's right, we changed ships because it's time for Combat 101. The reason we changed is because the Sidewinder, even though it's good, very maneuverable for first-time pilots, it is not very durable when it comes to combat. Even when you max out your shield and max out your armor, you still can't really survive more than a few hits, especially from the bigger ships. Um, so we've changed ships to the Viper Mark IV. Now there are a few different options that we could have chosen, and I'll go over the um, whatever you call it, pros and cons of the different ones. Now, not every shipyard has all the different ships. I have moved from the original system that we're at to the system that I like to use on my main account as well. It's called Pikum, P-I-K-U-M, because there's a few good stations around it, and my favorite, uh, whatever you call it, faction is there, called Leonry. That doesn't sound right. Anyway, because you get discounts once you get faction rep with him. So ships are cheaper and components are cheaper and stuff like that. So here's our regular old Sidewinder. Maneuverability, it has 6, which is one of the top in the game. Top speed, it's okay, 300 with boost, so not too bad. Of course, this is all non-modified. And then hard points, you got a couple of smalls. That's really one of the difficult parts of using this ship is the fact that you only have small weapons, so you can't really do a lot of damage. You got 2 utility points, and then if we start looking at what the main thing is, the core internals. Power plant 2, power distributor 1, thrusters are 2 class. And it doesn't, like, all the armor is going to be, it's always 1 whatever, I think, isn't it? It may not be. Let me look. I want to say it's always 1. Let's go up to something bigger real quick. Yeah, so that's the problem. The armor you can't really tell. Well, actually, I guess you can because it says it right there, right? So armor, 108. Not really that great. Shield's 52, even though that's not maxed out. It's not great. So you really can't survive that well in continual combat for it very long. Then you have what's called the Eagle. Now this is a much more combat designed ship. As you can see, your shield's a little bit better. The armor is less, but it is more maneuverable. This one has 3 hard points, but the problem with this is, yet again, it really doesn't have survivability. So this is a great ship if you have a friend that plays, and you're playing in what's called a private group instead of open. And that is one thing I would suggest, not to play in open when you're first starting off, because there are what I would call jerks that will just simply look out for new players in the starting systems or in the area where you start and just kill new players just because they can in a fully modified large ship. I mean, I hate people that play like that. So I would suggest you either go to solo, or if you have a friend that plays, go into a private group to where it's just the 2 or 3 or 4 of y'all, however many there are, and you don't have to worry about those players that just have nothing better to do than to kill new people. But yeah, like I said, this one, it's okay. It's a good start because it's not that much more expensive than the Sidewinder at only another basically 10,000 credits, but we've still got better options. Hauler, meh, not really what we're looking for. Adder, it's an exploration ship. Viper Mark III. Now this is a good step up as well. It does cost quite a bit more, but as you can see, the shields and armor are upgraded. Also the speed, look at that, 395 unmodified. So that means you can get around the battlefield quickly. You once again have a few hard points. I believe there's 2 mediums where those 1F pulse lasers are at, and then 2 small hard points. So now we're stepping up to where we have some bigger weapons. Because that's what this is about. You want those larger weapons in order to do more damage. We've got some 3 We have a 3 class shield, which is why our shield is up, whereas the other ones only had, I believe, 2 class. And then our power plant upgraded. Look at that, a 3 class power plant, a 3 class thrusters, so that means we can go faster, and a 3 class power distributor. Those are the main things we're looking for when it comes to combat. Those power, thrusters, and power distributor. Because your thrusters, that means you're more maneuverable. Power, you have the ability to run those bigger, heavier weapons, and that better thrusters. And power distributor, that's what allows you to your weapons and energy for your systems, for your shield, and your uh, engines to recharge faster. So you want that big power distributor. But sorry about that. There is one that's slightly more of what I like. I mean, you can see the Cobra Mark III. It has, really good speed, a 4 maneuverability. But for beginning players, the one that I really like is the Mark IV. This is actually what I like to use as far as it goes for small ships for combat. It has a lot more armor than the Mark III. Not quite as maneuverable, not quite as fast, but currently I have my armor up to 1700 in the one that we've got. And in my main account, I've got a Type 10, which is a very large ship. It's basically a gun turret, a flying gun turret is all it is. And it only has 3700, so comparatively, the Viper Mark IV is a really good starting ship. You can take a lot of hits and survive. Um, and you've got okay firepower. It's not great, but for a small ship, I mean, it does cost, 372,000 credits. But if you can get that much when you're doing all those little, just transport missions and whatnot, not like that, this is a great one to start off with. So, as you can see, we got a bigger power plant, a Class 4, bigger thrusters, Class 4, and the same power distributor as the previous one. So I'd go Viper Mark III first, and then this one once you have a little bit of money. Now let's talk about the actual components. So we're going to hop into outfitting. So, first things first, well, actually, we need to upgrade our core internals, which I've already done all this. One of the main things you want to, if you have the money, it's great to upgrade your hull type. I put in military grade. Once again, this costs a lot, so typically what I end up doing is I will, get the basics, have the lightweight alloys, mainly upgrade the power, the thrusters, and the power supply. Go into combat, do some fighting, get some bounties, and then I will, you get quite a bit off bounties, especially if you step up into the harder difficulty areas, as long as you um, do the method that I'm going to show you in a few minutes. Um, you can get up to this reactive or the mirrored surface. The reactive actually, once you modify it, will end up being the best overall, but in general, military grade is the best for the cheapest amount of money. And I'll talk about modifications in a later one. We have what's called engineering, which alters some of the stats of these kinds of things. But the problem is we're not to that point yet. You have to have a lot of other resources that we have not covered, like planetary gathering of resources and mining and stuff like that. So we're just going to go with military grade starting off, if you have the money. If not, lightweight's okay. Of course, you want the best power plant you can get. You can go down a few steps if you need to, if you don't have the money, because I mean the 4A power plant is $1 million. So you can easily do a lot of stuff with the 3B. But if you look down here in the bottom in the center, where it shows total power, you see how it's red now? That means I don't have enough power to power all the stuff that I have equipped. So that's the main reason why I want to go with the 4A. You can always step down on a, I always hit the wrong button, need to hit backspace. Because if you went down with thrusters, if you went down to a lower class, it doesn't require as much power. Um, so yeah, if you went down to like a 4C, As you can see, it takes even less, and 4D, it's about the same. But yeah, so first things you want to look at: power plant, thrusters, and the 3A power distributor. This is what gives you the recharge on your weapons. Remember the pips from last episode? That's what helps you recharge your pips. Okay, so after that, next thing you want to look at, because you have to have the power plant in order to power your weapons and whatnot. So, you got a few different types of weapons. What I suggest starting off are pulse lasers. They're not quite as power hungry as the beam lasers, but they do decent damage. So let's go ahead and look at the different types of weapons. So we have beam lasers. These are the best for taking down shields. Problem is, they take a lot of power and they build up heat. So not great for first-time players. Burst lasers, they're okay. I think they do a little bit more than pulse lasers, but I think they require more heat. But anyway, um, yeah, let's take a look at these. So these do 9 damage per second, 35 armor piercing, power draw 0.6. I keep hitting the wrong button. I need to change my button layout. So these do more damage, but look, more power draw. So we're trying to keep our power draw to a minimum while still being able to um, do decent damage. Next thing you have are the kinetic weapons. Cannons, multi-cannons, rail guns, stuff like that. So cannons are okay, but in my opinion, they don't have enough ammo, especially at the lower levels, before you can engineer them to get more ammo. They do a lot of damage. They do a lot of armor piercing, which we'll cover in advanced combat, because piercing armor and doing damage to internal components is a great way to take down enemies. Another great option, multi-cannons. Now the problem with cannons and multi-cannons and stuff like railguns, you have a finite amount of ammo. Same thing with frag cannons. So if you're going to go with, especially in the beginning, kinetic weapons, you want to go with multi-cannons just because they have a lot of ammo. And in general, they're considered one of the top weapons in the game, especially for beginners. Frag cannons, it's a shotgun. It works really well up close, but you may not want to be that close when firing. Missiles, until you have a larger ship and the ability, like, these require like a lot of power and stuff, and you really don't have a lot of ammo with them. This is kind of like a tertiary weapon where, you have your main weapon, you have your secondary weapons, and then you have these for hitting enemies hard, because explosive does a lot of damage to internal components. But unless you have a larger ship in order to carry these, not all that great. Mines, this is mainly for running away, so if you're doing mining and stuff, those are a great option to have. Then you have mining tools. We're not going to cover those because we're not mining. Plasma accelerators. Now, these are kind of like beam lasers, but they shoot a big plasma slug at the enemies. So they do both kinetic and thermal, kind of like the railguns, but the railgun is the opposite. It shoots a big, just metal slug at enemies. But the problem with these, they require a lot of power, and they're what's called fixed weapons. And I'll cover that in just a second. And the last thing we have is torpedoes. These are just like missiles, but you only carry like one. So you save this for really big enemies. So that's kind of a tertiary weapon in my opinion as well. So you've got a few different options as far as it comes to types of weapons. You have, well, this one doesn't have, well, we'll just go over the ones that are here. So you have what's called gimbaled, which if you notice the little symbol right under the name, the 1G pulse, where it's got a little plus looking sign gimbaled, that means that they track the enemies to a certain extent. They track them in a little bit of a cone in front of you typically, because that's where they're located. And this is what you want to go for starting off, because once you have an enemy targeted and you're shooting him, if you have fixed weapons, which I'll show you in a second, and you hit another target that is not wanted, you get a bounty yourself, which we don't want that, because if you have a bounty, that means everyone can target you and attack you and destroy you at that point. So you want gimbaled, because if you have a straight shot with a gimbaled, it doesn't matter, because you were targeting the guy that's wanted. You also have what's called turreted. Now, turrets will, in a certain radius, whether like if it's on top of your ship, it'll shoot most things above you and kind of in front of you and behind you, depending on how your ship is laid out, and stuff that's on the bottom targets stuff under you. Now, this is what you use on those really big ships like my Type 10 Defender. But in the smaller ships, it's not quite as useful because, yes, it has more range of motion, but it doesn't do as much damage. Because look at these two pulse lasers. If you notice, the gimbaled one does 6.2 damage per second. The turreted one only does 4. So the only trade-off is the fact that it can shoot in a bigger area, which is really what you need for those bigger ships that don't have the maneuverability. And then finally, if we go and look at the railguns, which I actually have equipped because I like using these, you have the one that has the little crosshair looking thing. That means it's fixed. Now, like I said, the problem with those fixed weapons is if you hit someone other than your intended target, like you shoot at your target with this one and you miss and it goes past him and hits someone, then you get a bounty yourself. So I would stay away from these for starting players. So that being said, I'm going to swap out mine, just to kind of give you what I would suggest is the best. I would go with the gimbaled multi-cannons with this. I'm just going to exchange those real quick and watch it goes in, comes out, and there we go. Now we got a multi-cannon. Now the thing is with the fixed weapons, what you're going to have to do is kind of lead your target, and especially starting off, that can be very hard to do. So I would suggest doing that, or you just get really close like I do and just wail on them with something. But yeah, so here's what I suggest is the 2 medium pulse lasers and 2 small multi-cannons. So we got the pulse lasers to take down shields, and you can still do damage to hull and armor, and then 2 multi-cannons to deal with the armor. Alright, so that is the main things for the hardpoint. Let's look at optionals. The next thing you want to look for is your shield. You want to put your shield in your top class or your biggest optional slot. Now there's a couple options here. You can go with the biggest whatever class A shield that you can, but of course that's going to cost quite a bit. Get out shield generator. Alright, so you can go with the 4A, but of course the 4A costs quite a bit. I mean, it's another 1,000,000 credits. You can step down a size to the 3A, which is much cheaper, but of course it has 100 less. So eventually you want to get the 4A. The other option you have is, even though it's another 60 shield less, is the bi-weave shield. Now what the bi-weave shield does is it recharges faster after taking damage. So this is another great option, especially in your larger ships, but in the small ships, I try to go for the biggest thing I can get. Alright, let me back out. And there are a few other things you can do. You can have, depending on how much power you have, you can do what's called a shield cell bank, which you press a button, and if your shield is down a couple of rings, it will start recharging it. That builds up heat, though, so if you don't have the proper power plant, you can start taking internal damage because of that. I'm not going to worry about it on this ship because I have a lot of hulls, so I can usually take a few hits. The next thing you want to look at is hull reinforcement. Now these are going to make your ship heavier, so you're not going to be quite as fast and maneuverable, but it pays off in the long run. Because as you can see, with this class 4, I've got 330 more shield. The class 3 gives me 260. So I put quite a few of those in, and then I put a couple of, a couple of these module reinforcements. So that's once they start hitting your hull, if they hit in the same spot multiple times, of course it starts doing module damage. And that makes your stuff like your power plant or your weapons and stuff like that start taking damage and start malfunctioning. So I always put a couple of the module reinforcements in addition to my hull reinforcements. And then of course we have one slot that you can kind of do whatever you want with. I always have an advanced docking computer because I'm lazy and I hate having to dock myself. And then finally we have utilities. Now one thing you're going to need if you're doing the standard bounty hunting is a kill warrant scanner. This is basically what gives you the boost to the amount of money that the people have on their bounties. So you basically you select your target, you scan them with this, and that will compound how much money you're going to get from killing them. Now, I always try to go for the best one I can get that I can cover with the amount of money I have, or with the amount of power I have. Typically, I mean, even if it's a Class E or Class D, that's fine, but if you notice the scanner range goes down. So that means you have to be a whole lot closer to scan people. I tend to go with a Class C most of the time because that's usually, kind of the uh, middle of the road as far as it goes. Because 3,000 meters, that's about when your weapons can start targeting them as well. So I tend to go with Class C, but since I've got plenty of power, it's not going to take me over. I'm going to go with Class B. It gives me a little bit more range to start scanning. The other thing I like to use is what's called a chaff launcher. Now you have all these different little things. Chaff launcher, basically what it does is it confuses the enemy's targeting systems. So as long as they're using gimbaled or turreted, it's going to make it to where they can't hit you as easily. ECMs, I don't know if I've ever actually used an ECM. Oh, okay, so it causes gimbaled, oh wait, that's the chaff. This system to counteract missiles and torpedoes, that's right. Affected weapon lock loses the target. So that's, you really aren't going to face, especially in standard combat, you're not going to face those all that much. If you go into open, you might. Heatsink launchers, this works well with those shield cell boosters or shield cell banks. You can pop one of these, then use your shield cell bank, but that's typically in those larger ships. Kill warrant scanner we covered, manifest scanner we don't need. Point defense, this is for anti-missile defense. It automatically targets and tracks and tries to shoot them down in range. Once again, we're not going to really see those. And then the final thing, because pulse wave we don't really need, is shield boosters. Now, if you have a medium ship, you can start putting these in. Basically, it just gives you, for a little bit of power draw, it gives you higher level shields. But yeah, so what we want, chaff launcher, which is inactivated, you do have to hit the button to activate it, and then the kill warrant scanner. And that is pretty much it for the weapons and loadout that we're going to be using. Okay, I need to set fire groups. So to set fire groups, we're going to hit our 4 key on our keyboard, and then we're going to come over here to fire groups, which is already set there. I just need to set my kill warrant scanner so that I can activate it when I want to scan people. The chaff I actually have set to my C key on my keyboard, so I can just hit it whenever I want. Typically when I'm starting combat, or if I start getting targeted by multiple people. Alright, so the place that we want to look for is what's called resource extraction. This is the easiest way to get into combat, which look like these. Basically, it's the rings around the planets that you would see whenever you're flying around in the open. So I'm going to lock this destination for the low one. Actually, I'll probably do the... yeah, we'll do low for now. There's not usually as many enemies, and there's a lot of what do we call them? System security forces in the low, and even in the high, there's quite a few. But basically, what you want to do when we're doing standard combat is you don't want to target and hit them first, hit the enemies first. What you want to do is you want to follow around those security forces, let them shoot the enemies first, while you can still sit there and scan the enemies, but let them shoot them, because whoever shoots them first is who the AI pilot will go after first. So you let them shoot them first, and then you start attacking them as well until you get more comfortable flying your ship. And then after that, you can actually start taking on people yourself. Not recommended in a smaller ship until you have your, whatever you call it, until you have your skills down. But at least starting off, it's a great way to get quite a bit of money. And once you get a little bit more comfortable, the high is what I recommend, just to get a lot of money, especially if you're flying in with your friends. But you just follow around those security forces. So give me a few minutes and we will hop over there. Alright, so we're approaching the planet. I just want to kind of give you all a primer if you haven't approached these before. What you want to do is you want to kind of be above the ring, above or below, and then you're going to kind of approach it at an angle, because you don't want to come straight at it like I am right now, because you'll drop out too early, because you can what they consider impact the ring. So you want to be kind of above it like I am right now, and then you come down at an angle like so. You want to make sure your speed is in the blue, and you basically just aim straight at, oh, that's not the one I was going for. You know, it helps if I pay attention. Actually, you know what? Give me a second. The low is in the dark. I don't want to do combat. I don't want to do the combat tutorial in the dark. Let me find the... Where's my high... There it is. So I'm just going to do the high resource extraction. Just so we're in the light, because fighting in the dark is a lot more difficult. You have to use your ship lights or your night vision. Not nearly as easy to avoid the asteroids, because this is an asteroid belt, so you do have to be careful. Like I said, you kind of come down from on top of it. As you see, the features are filling out a little bit more. But like I said, I would do the low starting off, and then you can step up into the high once you have like your armor and your better shields. Alright, so basically you want to kind of stay around this area where the resource extraction site is. But now we're going to start looking for enemies. First things first, though, is your pips in your shields, or systems, energy, and weapons. Because systems is your shield recharge rate, energy, or the ENG is your, whatever you call them. Your engines, and then the weapons. So what I tend to do is have about 3 in weapons and 1 in the other 2. It depends on your ship type as to what's the best, but I like having my weapons recharge faster. And what we're going to do is we're going to start looking around for enemies. So we hit the 1 key and we come over to contacts, and you can look through here and try to find some of the enemies. Now the green are going to be the system forces, and there'll be other ones, like some of these may be what's called system security or series security in this area. But what you're going to do, the other option is to kind of look around with your ship. Okay, you see someone's getting fired on down here. So most likely one of these is probably system security forces, and then the others are, yeah, see, look, this one, after I kind of targeted him for a little bit, he turned to wanted. So what we want to do is we're going to switch, I need to be in combat mode. We're going to switch to our kill warrant scanner. And okay, you see the green guy? That means he's system security. And now we're going to scan this guy with our kill warrant scanner, because that's what's going to give us the best bang for our buck as far as money. Okay, now he's scanned. I'm going to switch back to my other weapons using my N key, and now I can start shooting him, as long as I'm within range. And I can use both my sets of weapons. Now, basically what's going to cause him to target me is if I start doing more damage than the other people in general. But since I'm in a small ship, he's not really going to target me. Look at that, 230,000 credits right off the bat. I mean, that's almost enough to buy the ship. And then basically all you do is you follow these guys around. That's it. You just look around, and of course you can target stuff. See, like series security, that's going to be a security vessel. Let's see, what's this guy? Series security as well. Looks like a lot of serious security. Okay, well, let's look around and see if we can find someone that's not serious security. So you do one, you hit, well, for me it's the space bar, and I can look around and see where the enemies are. Since I'm in a small ship, though, I'm probably not going to target people. This guy actually might be in a wing with more than one person. Nope, just him. But he is following... Okay, so look, more combat over here. Let's go see what they're shooting at. So we're just going to fly towards them. Let's see if I can get the guy targeted. Oh, well, they already destroyed him. Okay. Okay, look, now they're targeting somebody else, so we'll target this guy. Okay, and we're going to switch our weapon types, don't forget to do this, to the kill warrant scanner. As long as he's got shields left, you can typically kill warrant scan him before they destroy him. All you have to do is get 1 or 2 shots in on him. Okay, so I've scanned him, shoot a couple times. Now watch, I don't even have to destroy him. The system security forces can do it. I'll just pitch in a little bit just because I can. But he's not going to target me because I'm not doing enough damage. And this is the best way to get your money up. Starting off, you don't have to have a big ship. You can get quite a bit of money, especially if you're in the high resource extraction area. You just fly around and hit that target. Now I am using my thrusters. So basically what you do is, for me I've got a little top hat thing on my joystick that basically allows me to use my thrusters to turn around faster. Look at that, another 147,000. But basically what I do is, like when you want to turn around, you I literally just do kind of like what would be considered a loop, but then I also use my thrusters, my up thrusters, to make me go turn around faster. See, look, this is normal turning speed. Well, you can't really tell with this ship, but you get the idea. Somebody's getting shot at. No, I think that's a noise glitch. Sounds like, yep, okay, that's a noise glitch. But yeah, that is basically it. You just follow those security vessels around and shoot those enemies and get yourself some more money to upgrade your ship. And you just keep doing that until you get either a bigger ship or you fully outfit your small ship for combat. And in advanced combat, I will cover if you're trying to take on enemies by yourself, and then a few advanced maneuvers like the flight assist off. Now, as you can see, my turning radius, which I'll cover this right now because it's like a little bonus. As you can see, it's not that fast, but if I turn flight assist off and then use my thrusters, and if okay, you see how fast I'm turning, but it kind of moves around more. The other thing you have to notice is if you use boost, it will make you, it goes to thrusters first. So here's me turning normal. Now if I boost and use thrusters, I turn much faster. See, this is normal speed. Boost. It uses my thrusters that I have forcing up faster. So that's a great way to turn around really quickly to get that target, or to get away from your target. But anyway, this is Combat 101. If you have any questions, don't forget to leave those down in the comments. And of course, I'm going to do an advanced combat video as well for those that need a little bit more than just the basics, you know, outfitting your ship and getting into combat. But once again, this is Meriden Gaming. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell so you get notifications of when all my videos come out, because we're doing a few different games. Elite Dangerous here, Medieval Dynasty for those survival game buffs, and then Borderlands 3. We like to do challenges there. Currently we're doing the Commons Only challenge, and then 2 different series of Minecraft, both a single player Let's Play and a multiplayer server called Infinity Craft. And once again, this is Meriden Gaming, and I'll see you in space, 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 space. See y'all later. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to cover is where to turn in your bounties. So I've selected a station that's close by. I do need to get through the asteroid field because they're on the other side of the asteroid field. And let me get through, and then I can target them and jump into Super Cruise. You do have to put your weapons up, which for me is the U key on my keyboard, in order to be able to jump to Super Cruise. Okay, now we're through here. We can jump to... Oh, I'm mass locked by the asteroids. Okay, yeah, one thing about, you know, you have to be outside the range of asteroids, ships, stuff like that in order to jump into Super Cruise. Alright. It's going to call it frame shift drive, even though it's cruise mode. And you want to kind of get away from the asteroids because they will slow you down whenever you're jumping out. And I selected this one even though there's a closer station. I don't remember if it has the bounty officer or not. Actually, I think it doesn't have outfitting was what it was. That's what it was, but I like this one here better. Once we get out of range of the planet and the asteroid belt, we should pick up speed. And I'll tell you what, I'll see y'all over there real quick. Alright, we are back at the starport. And of course this is an open one because it's one of the smaller starports, but the first thing you need to do is always refuel and restock your ammo. Because once you run out of ammo, of course your kinetic weapons don't work anymore. Next thing we look at, starport services. This is where we turn in those bounties that we just got. So we come over here to contacts, authority contact, and you see where it has this bounties. This is where we turn them in. So look, we've got $1 million in bounties just for those few people we just killed. That is a lot. That's all because we kill warrant scanned them. Make sure to be doing that if you want to get this kind of money. But I mean, basically, now I'm able to buy my new ship and even start to outfit it if I wanted to. Now, if you had bounties and whatnot, that's where the fines would be. The other stuff really doesn't matter right now because we really don't get those. The trade dividends is if you're with a group, basically. But yeah, that's where you turn these in and get all that money. So once again, this is Mariner Gaming, and I'll see you in the starport.